Hi guys, my name is Aaron James Nicolas, and this is my story. In the summer of 2010, shortly after Jocelyn, my wife, and I got married, I got a call from my parents to tell us that my dad had been diagnosed with stage 2 leukemia. He had 16 tumors in his chest, and it wasn't looking very good for him. And that was probably the first time that I had experienced a test of my faith and kind of this sense that my world had been shattered, because both of my parents had been kind of spiritual mentors in my life, and I owed my faith and my faith in my spiritual development and basically everything I knew about God because of their example and to their example. It would have been kind of like losing my connection to God in a lot of ways, because everything that I had done in my spiritual life, as far as devotional time and spiritual meditation and all of these things, had been taught to me by my father, and practiced by both he and my mom. And it was hard. I remember very distinctly just having these moments with God where I would just ask why, but know that there wouldn't be an answer. There wouldn't be any explanation for necessarily why this was happening. But probably the most profound thing for me through that whole experience, the most profound thing to witness, was my parents' relationship and my parents' faith. And my dad basically said at the beginning as soon as he was diagnosed, and when he told us, one of the first things he said was, "It's going to be really, really hard, and it's going to seem like I'm not going to make it. But the Lord has promised that I'll be okay, and that He's going to use my cancer as a witness to my community of His goodness and of His faithfulness, even in the midst of hard things." And that was really hard to hear, because you were a part of that in a lot of ways. You were a part of that suffering. You were a part of that trial. And so to have him be so confident for the whole family in his faith and in his trust that the promises of God in his life were not done, that his testimony and his ministry here was not over, and that cancer was just going to be yet another witness to the gospel of Christ, was a profound experience. And even more so to watch him walk that out, and to watch my mom walk that out, and to live that out, to be joyful in the midst of their trial, is a lesson that I will never forget, and that I aspire to practice in my own life and to put forth in my own life when I inevitably will face similar trials and similar problems. Because there'd be moments where I remember really distinctly, we were at the dinner table, and he had been he was probably halfway through his chemotherapy, and we were all eating this wonderful meal that my mom had made, and I can't even remember exactly what the meal was, but I do remember my mom asking my dad, how does it taste? And him just saying it tastes like arsenic. He couldn't taste the food because of the chemicals in his system. It was just masking everything and making it taste really nasty and metallic, and this was just like a small part of his everyday life, that everything tasted like arsenic, and which is poison. And you just would watch him say something like that, but then be laughing in the next minute. And my brother was a senior, and my dad was a football coach, and there were moments when he wouldn't take any they would have to take bone marrow from him, or there'd be some kind of treatment that he would have to do, and normally they'd give you like some kind of pain-killing medication for that, but it would wipe him out, so he would refuse it, so that he wouldn't miss my brother's football games. And you're just watching that testimony and witness. You know, there was another time he's a high school teacher, and he decided that instead of skipping lectures, he would Skype into his classroom to teach. And those are not normal things for people to do. And I think it challenged people's faith. It challenged the way they viewed God, and it challenged suffering, and it challenged cancer. Not just for him and for us, but I think for the community that he and my mom are a part of, and definitely for our family. It put God up against this monster, this leukemia thing that kills and takes the lives of so many people, and all we had was this promise that God had given to him that he would be okay, and it would seem like he was gonna die, but that he would be all right. And it was really interesting because at some point he got pneumonia, and for people that don't really know, chemotherapy kind of destroys your immune system, and so it's very, very dangerous to get sick. But he did, and he did almost die. And my mom thought it was over, and we were all kind of bracing ourselves, and my dad yet again said, "No, I told you from the beginning. The Lord told us that told our family and promised us that this was going to be okay, and that I was going to make it through." And we're going into 2015, and now my dad's almost 2 years cancer free, and doctors were blown away. They just didn't understand how he could have survived this and pulled through and ride so close to death, but never let it take him. And not only that, but also just be so full of hope, and to have my mom be so strong and so full of hope, even when it was really hard, and to watch them hold on to their faith and this promise that God had given them was profound and powerful. And I probably changed my life in ways that I'll never really fully understand. And when I was thinking about these things, I thought of this verse in Romans. And I want to read it because I think it's really applicable to what he was going through. And Paul's been writing to the Romans about what it means to be justified by faith. And he's talking about this promise of God that we can cling to. And he says, "We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and that endurance produces character, and character produces hope. And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit, who has been given to us." I know for me, my dad's cancer, and he and my mother's testimony and witness through this trial produced character and produced hope. But it only did those things because of their unwavering faith in the promises of God. And I just hope that I can walk through life and walk through trials and walk through suffering with that same hope that begins with faith and trust in Jesus.